In the mid-1950s, something unbelievable took place above the jungles of Borneo. Military planes, relics of the Second World War, flew low across the canopy. The roar of their engines echoed through remote villages that had never seen anything like it. But when the cargo doors opened, it wasn't soldiers or supplies tumbling into the green below. Instead, crates began sliding out, each one fitted with a parachute. And inside those crates, cats. Parachutes bloomed open against the sky, dozens of them floating down toward the villages. From the ground, it looked like the jungle was being invaded, not by bombs or weapons, but by animals drifting on silk canopies. Entire communities stood frozen, eyes fixed upward, the sky filled with falling crates, each swinging gently as it descended. What they saw seemed impossible. Cats raining from the sky, each meowing inside its wooden prison. This wasn't a stunt. It wasn't propaganda. It was a real mission, organized by the World Health Organization and carried out by the Royal Air Force. And it was their desperate attempt to undo a disaster of their own making. After the Second World War, Borneo was still a remote jungle colony, thick with rivers, swamps, and dense canopy. Life was hard, and disease was constant. The greatest threat wasn't snakes or tigers, it was mosquitoes carrying malaria. Entire villages lived with fear of the fever. To fight back, the newly formed World Health Organization launched a campaign. Their weapon was a chemical called DDT, praised as a miracle of modern science. Sprayers were sent from house to house, coating bamboo walls and thatched roofs with a thick mist. At first, it looked like a success. Mosquito numbers dropped, malaria cases declined, and health officials declared victory. But in ecosystems, victories are never that simple. The chemical didn't stop at mosquitoes. It poisoned the lizards that lived on the walls and floors of those same huts. The cats of Borneo, household guardians against pests, hunted those lizards. Slowly, silently, the poison moved up the chain. Cats began to fall ill, their bodies weakening, their numbers shrinking, and every village sprayed with DDT. And then came the real catastrophe. With the cats gone, nothing stood between the villages and the rats. In trying to kill mosquitoes, the WHO had killed the very balance that kept Borneo alive. The disappearance of cats opened the gates. Rats poured into the villages in numbers no one had seen before. They crept along rafters, chewed through thatched walls, and flooded food stores. Every grain sack, every basket of rice, every corner of a home, overrun. Rice, the lifeblood of survival in Borneo, was devoured. Families woke to find their year's harvest reduced to husks. Hunger crept in as quickly as the rats themselves. Villagers had fought famine before, but never an enemy that multiplied this fast. With the rats came something worse than hunger, disease. Fleas carried by the invaders spread typhus and plague. The cure for malaria had become the spark for a wider epidemic. In the eyes of villagers, the foreign chemical had cursed them. Local leaders sent desperate reports to health officials. They warned the cure was worse than the disease, but for the World Health Organization, pulling back meant admitting failure. Instead, they looked for another way to fight the disaster their own campaign had unleashed. And so, the stage was set. The next move wouldn't be more chemicals. It wouldn't be new medicine. It would be one of the strangest missions in Cold War history, dropping cats from the sky. By 1955, complaints from villages could no longer be ignored. Food supplies were vanishing, disease was spreading, and communities blamed the very health campaign that was supposed to protect them. The World Health Organization faced a choice: admit their program had failed, or find an extraordinary solution. In desperation, officials turned to the Royal Air Force. The RAF had spent years perfecting supply drops across the jungles of Southeast Asia. If food, ammunition, and medicine could be delivered by parachute, why not cats? The idea sounded absurd, but it was possible. Local cats were gathered in villages, transported to RAF airfields, and placed in bamboo crates. Each crate was light, with breathing slats and straw bedding. Parachutes were rigged carefully, designed to open quickly and cushion the fall through the thick jungle air. The pilots joked nervously about their unusual cargo. They had flown food, fuel, and weapons, never cats. But paperwork was stamped, plans were finalized, and the date was set. The mission had a name whispered half in jest, half in awe. Operation Cat Drop. Within weeks, Dakota planes stood ready on the tarmac. Crates were stacked inside cargo bays. To the men loading them, it was just another assignment. But for the villages waiting below, the parachutes carried more than cats. They carried the last chance to restore balance to Borneo's collapsing ecosystem. In 1955, engines thundered across the skies of Borneo. The first cat drop was underway. From the ground, the roar was deafening. Villagers stepped out of their homes and shaded their eyes. The planes that once carried war cargo now carried something entirely different. Inside the plane, crewmen pushed bamboo crates toward the edge. Each crate shuddered as cats meowed and clawed against the slats, sensing the chaos outside. The pilots gave the order. One by one, the crates slid out and vanished into the blinding sky. Parachutes burst open almost instantly. White silk domes dotted the sky, drifting in formation like strange flowers. From below, villagers gasped as they realized what they were seeing. Not bombs, not food, but animals descending slowly toward their fields and huts. Crates touched down with soft thuds, parachutes collapsing into the mud. Villagers rushed forward cautiously, unsure whether to laugh or panic. When the bamboo cages were opened, cats leapt out, disoriented but alive, blinking in the sunlight of a jungle they had never seen. Within minutes, the new arrivals had scattered through the huts and rice fields. The mission was complete. To the villagers, it was unforgettable. Cats falling from the sky, each one a weapon against the plague of rats. Absurd in design, but brutally effective in purpose. The effect was immediate. Rats that had multiplied without fear suddenly had predators again. Within days, villagers reported fewer infestations. The animals that fell from the sky were not a gimmick. They were an emergency solution that restored the natural balance almost overnight. Rice stores were saved. Families who had nearly starved saw their food supply protected. Children who once woke to rat bites could now sleep with a cat curled in the corner of the hut. The animals had become both protectors and symbols of survival. Health officials, embarrassed but relieved, recorded the results quietly. Reports noted reduced rat populations and fewer complaints from villages. The solution had worked, though few would ever admit how strange the plan sounded. For once, absurdity had delivered victory where science had failed. Yet, the irony was sharp. The same organization that caused the disaster now claimed credit for fixing it. Planes had dropped cats into jungles to clean up a chemical mistake. History would bury the details, but for the people of Borneo, the memory remained vivid. In the aftermath, no medals were awarded, no speeches given. It was treated as routine, just another field report filed away. But the villagers who lived it never forgot. They had watched the sky rain cats, and they knew that survival sometimes arrives in the strangest forms. Word of the cat drop spread beyond Borneo. To outsiders, it sounded more like satire than science. But in the Cold War, the line between the absurd and the real was razor thin. Strange operations were everywhere, often buried in secrecy. Rumors claimed it was a test for biological deployment. If cats could be dropped safely, why not other animals, or even weapons? In an era of paranoia, even the most bizarre stories found believers. The cat drop was folded into whispers of covert experiments. It wasn't so far-fetched. The United States tested pigeons with cameras, bats carrying firebombs, even considered detonating nuclear weapons on the moon. The Soviet Union experimented with mind control and weaponized dolphins. Against this backdrop, parachuting cats didn't seem strange, it seemed ordinary. Operation Cat Drop became part of this catalog of Cold War oddities, a strange but real mission, half forgotten outside the jungles where it took place. For those who lived through the drop, it was no joke. It was survival. But for outsiders, it became myth. In hindsight, it captured the absurd logic of the age. When confronted with disaster, even the strangest solutions could be treated as strategy. In the world of spies, nukes, and propaganda, a plane full of cats fit right in. It was both comical and deadly serious. The story of Operation Cat Drop isn't just bizarre trivia, it's a warning. Every time humans intervene in nature, we set off chains of reaction. What seems like a victory in the moment can turn into catastrophe just a few steps later. A chemical sprayed to kill mosquitoes didn't stop at mosquitoes. It poisoned lizards, then cats, then opened the gates to rats. What began as a miracle cure ended with food shortages, disease, and planes raining animals to restore a balance that never needed breaking. Nature has no patience for shortcuts. Remove one piece and others fall. The balance may hold for a moment, but the collapse is inevitable. Operation Cat Drop was not about cats. It was about the arrogance of thinking we could outplay the jungle. In the end, the jungle reasserted itself. Predators returned, rats retreated, and villagers endured. But the scars remained. Memories of sick children, empty grain stores, and planes dropping meowing crates through the clouds. The lesson is simple, but it keeps being ignored. Ecosystems are complex beyond our control. Every shortcut creates a longer disaster. Operation Cat Drop stands as proof that nature doesn't bend to our intentions. It only answers to balance. They called it Operation Cat Drop. It remains one of the strangest missions in the history of public health. What began as a campaign to kill mosquitoes ended with planes dropping predators from the sky. In an age of atomic weapons, spies, and secret projects, perhaps the strangest event wasn't in Moscow or Washington, but in the jungles of Borneo, where parachutes carried cats instead of bombs. Today, the story is retold as comedy. But in 1955, no one was laughing. For the people of Borneo, parachuting cats were the difference between famine and survival. So the question remains, if history hid this in a footnote, what else has it hidden? How many strange missions lie forgotten in the archives, waiting to be rediscovered? Operation Cat Drop proves one thing: the truth is always stranger than fiction.